Hello everybody, I'm Count Cristo, and I really enjoy playing Hearts of Iron 4, as those of you who follow the activity on the channel probably know by now. I've played this game for, let me just check, 948 hours, and I have no intention of stopping now. It's a wonderful game. The reason I started YouTube was because I thought the Let's Players playing this game weren't giving it a fair shake, and weren't being as positive as I would want to be in a Let's Play for this game. That being said, there are definitely problems with this game and things that it could improve, and here is a list of 10 of the things that I think it could do better. The first thing, and the thing that I think annoys me the most, is what I'm going to call frontline spreading. So let's say you have two front lines side by side, like this. Okay, so you're advancing into Poland, as you do. Let's just let time go a little bit so these guys all organise up. Okay. So, you're advancing into Poland, and you have a northern attack force and a southern attack force. Perhaps you want to concentrate force in the north, so you can seize the important areas of Poznan, Lodz and Warsaw before you then attack maybe into the east, or maybe they've capitulated by the time you've taken just this region. So, you have two different attack plans, one in the south, one in the north, right? Now, let's say this attack plan does this, and attacks in here. Obviously, we'll win this battle if we just give it a moment to succeed in this battle. Now, the problem is, when the front lines change, they become silly. Note this front line currently goes to this province here. Okay, what in the hell was that? Why? Why have you done this, Paradox? This front line used to extend to here. Note that this province, the relation between this province and the Polish front hasn't changed at all. But what it's done is it's extended the front line into this province, and this province, and this province, for no discernible reason. And to fix that, you have to change the front line back. It's really silly how it does that. The front lines, I call this frontline spreading, because the front lines just, they really want to increase their width. And the issue with that, if we just let this defense finish and then launch some more attacks. The issue with this is that it keeps doing it. There's no easy way to stop it. The only recourse you have, really, is to either ignore it or repeatedly fix the front lines like that. Every time you take a new tile, okay, that one is sufficiently far away, it didn't do it. That's good. But when you change the front line close to the edges of two, it really mucks it up. And this is a serious concern I have about the next patch, because if we're going to have to start using... How did you... Oh, right, I banned the Convoy Loss. Okay, not important. If in the next patch there's going to be an order of battle system where you're encouraged to use generals, that means you're going to have multiple front lines on each front, right? That's going to be a real problem if they don't fix frontline spreading. And the way you fix it is very simple. You say, I mean, simple in theory. I do not know how to code. This might be a huge problem, so I don't make any airs about knowing that it would be simple to fix. You just make it so that this point here, they never overlap. If they don't overlap before you've set them, don't make them overlap. Just don't do it. The problem with frontline spreading, let's say this happened. Now these two overlap. The number of troops here and the number of troops here, if the numbers assigned to each front and the length of the front are roughly the same, are going to be about equal. The numbers assigned here are going to be double, because there's two front lines, each told to garrison that one particular area. That means you're going to unnecessarily concentrate force here, when you didn't actually want to do that. And for me, that's a pretty serious problem. So that's the first one of my adjustments, and the one that I pray to the Paradox gods that they fix. Please, Paradox, fix frontline spreading. Adjustment number 2 is I would love it if Paradox would remove reinforcement rate. I'm using a mod right now which eliminates reinforcement rate, so you can see if I add more men to this attack, they will, and then take some out again. Put them back in again. Give me a second here. Right, these reserves have 102% chance to reinforce because I'm using a mod called the Serious mod. Now, I do a whole separate video where I go into why reinforcement rate is ridiculous and why the Serious mod should be used in any thinking players, Let's Plays and playthroughs. So please, get rid of reinforcement rate. It's a very silly mechanic. It's not remotely sensible that your units often have a 2 or 7% chance of getting the memo that they should attack or even defend. Please, get rid of reinforcement rates. Now, the third adjustment is make sinking convoys matter. So, we lost 3 convoys against some Polish destroyers and some subs, right? That doesn't matter. It does nothing. Those convoys were most likely responsible for taking supplies from Rostock over here. Guns, ammunition, fuel, all those valuable resources are being sent from Mecklenburg to Ostpreußen, right? And they sunk 3 convoys. A loss of 3 convoys is a substantial loss. That's hundreds of lives and thousands of maybe not thousands of tons, but probably at least hundreds of tons of resources and equipment that were just lost. And do you know how much equipment we lost? 0. And do you know how much the supply in this province was affected? 0. It did nothing. We lost some convoys. Now that does matter, because you have to build convoys, but they're cheap as all heck. Look at these things. They cost 70 production. 70. If we just cancel a bunch of these. 70 production is nothing. We can build 4.7 of these a week. That's absurd. And that's with, you know, just 13 dockyards assigned to it. You can bang out convoys. They are cheap as chips. I often end up with 1,000+ convoys by the end of the game just because I have one small production line producing them. They need to make it so that if your convoys are raided between Rostock and Ostpreußen, your supply drops in Ostpreußen, and if they were sending reinforcements, as in like these troops over here, they've lost some guns, they have some new ones being sent in. So you'd be able to see here, you know, some manpower's going over, some infantry troops going over. If the convoy gets sunk, that's holding that equipment, and it would need to track that, which would, you know, would take some doing, but if a convoy gets sunk that's carrying infantry equipment, you should lose that infantry equipment. So that would be adjustment number 3. Now, the 4th adjustment requires us to tag over to the United Kingdom. I think they should remove the inability of democracies to declare war on neutral nations. We can't justify against them because they have not generated world tension. I'm using Iran as an example because the United Kingdom did declare war on Iran in the Second World War. In fact, they attacked them without declaring war. That's the level of freedom that democracies actually had in history. The Soviet Anglo invasion of Iran occurred in 1942? I think it might have been 41, I'm not sure. It was to secure oil fields and to protect the Allies were sending supplies from India through Iran and from I think from Africa as well into the Soviet Union to help the Soviet war effort. For some reason in the game, the developers have decided that democracies are fluffy bunnies that can't declare war, and only fascists ever declare war. That's just totally ahistorical and doesn't make sense. Please let democracies declare war. Probably, I mean, I agree there should be a world tension limit, because it's not plausible to me the United Kingdom could have declared war on Iran, you know, just out of the blue in 1937 at 0% world tension. That wouldn't have happened. But during a major war with 100% world tension, democracy should absolutely be able to declare war on neutral nations. Right, so change number 5. I love this extended and streamlined production mod. I've made a separate video talking about how wonderful it is. You can go and check that out. It will be linked in the video description. This allows you to deploy 50 military factories per line. I want to be able to deploy 1 million military factories per line, or any other number. Just give me a little thing here which says 1, 2, 3, 473, and give me a plus and a minus, and let me shift click it to add 5, control click it to add 20. I can't see any reason why we have to do it in this silly little 15 per line, and then if you want another line, you're going to go, okay, let's make a new line, let's put it next to the first line so that it's organized, and we'll put another 15 in there, but it's the late game, so we want another 3 lines. Okay, we'll make 1, 2, 3 more lines, we'll set them each to 15, and then we'll put it at the top of the list. There we go. Okay, now we've assigned 3 more lines. That's needlessly complicated. It's not like the British command said, okay, I want you to assign 10 factories to it, and that was trivial. I want you to assign 15 factories to it, and that was trivial. But to assign 30 took some whole other complicated set of instructions. You should be able to assign as many factories as you want to infantry equipment, and it should be easy. And the way to make it easy is just to have infantry equipment, 10 factories, tanks, 20 factories, and a plus and a minus. I don't think it'll happen, because I know that Paradox likes this layout, but I really, really wish it would happen. Okay, that's change number 5. Change number 6, they need to remove, let's just switch over to a random miner. Oh, no. Excuse me. Oops, I'm on pause now. Let's tag over to Turkey. So, we're Turkey, we have the default focus tree. Remove this focus and this focus. This focus gives 5% manpower, this focus gives 2% reputable population, 5 and 2%, 7% buff. Let's check out the communist tree. What do you get? Communism support? Worthless. Because in order to take, because you can't take this if you're political. It's right, you can't take this if you are, you can't take this unless you're communist or unaligned. So it's pretty worthless. This one, 200 political power, not so useful. 150 political power, 5% national unity, worthless. Although more useful in the upcoming expansion, the national unity. This one gives division recovery rate. That's pretty good. 200 political power, pretty good. Nowhere near as good as 7% manpower. Either get rid of the 7% manpower or put it into every tree. Maybe you could only have it in the fascist and communist trees, because it kind of makes sense that the neutral guys shouldn't maybe get it because they're less aggressive, but they should probably get it later on, like in Why We Fight or something, because once a neutral power is at fighting for their survival, as we saw in the Second World War, you know, England and France's conscription was, you know, hardcore. They got a lot of people conscripted into their armies. So they should get rid of that, and the reason they should get rid of that is not just because it's overpowered, it's because it means that if you're playing in multiplayer, no one goes communist, no one goes liberty ethos, no one goes neutral or democratic, everyone goes nationalist. Because a 7% boost is just unparalleled anywhere else in this tree. So it basically means that, you know, this part of the tree might as well not exist. If you're playing seriously, there's no point going down these trees. Everyone's going to go this tree. So they should get rid of that to make these actually make sense. Let's tag back over to Germany for adjustment number 7, which is unit strength should be proportional to the amount of equipment you have. Let's look at this division here. He's obviously in a pretty bad spot. We haven't paid a great deal of attention to our Königsberg pocket in this game here. So he is at 56% strength. Okay, 56% strength, which means his soft attack here is showing that he has a base of 39.8. If we look at this division template, he is showing us that because he has 9 infantry. Yeah. So his attack is being modified down by 56%, right? Because he is at technically 56% of fighting strength. He's waiting for 268 infantry equipment. He has 544. Now, if you're good at maths, you will know that 544 times about 2. Sorry, is not the same as 268. He should not be at 50% fighting strength. He has more than 56% of his equipment. Substantially more. I'm terrible at quick maths, but he looks like he has about 68%, 70%, something like that. Right? He should not be at 56% fighting strength. It makes no sense that a unit missing a third of its equipment would miss 50% of its fighting effectiveness. If you have 10 guns and your attack is 10, when you have 5 guns, your attack should be 5, surely. So I think they should change that and make unit strength directly proportional to exactly how much of the equipment they actually have. If they want to make it even more complicated, and I'm always in favour of that, to be honest, they should make it so that the fighting strength is different per equipment type. So you should have, let's say you have 50% of your artillery and 100% of your infantry equipment, you should have 100% fighting strength from the infantry and then only 50% from the artillery. I'd love that change. That is change number 7. Change number 8 is to make a full order of battle system. Now, I wrote the script for this video before they announced they were actually going to do that, so huzzah! 1 out of 10, let's go. So they're going to put in an order of battle system, in case you haven't noticed, which means you have field marshals commanding generals. I like that change. It's coming, it's in the next patch. Victory. 1 out of 10, let's go. Number 9, I want a prisoner of war system. During the Second World War, prisoners of war were a serious drain on the economies of the countries that took them. They were a serious policy decision. Different nations had serious different attitudes. So, as Germany, for example, in the Second World War, historically, Germany treated French and British prisoners pretty well. Not exceptionally well, but really pretty well. On the other hand, they treated most of their Slavic and Russian prisoners extremely badly. If you were a Russian POW in a German camp, odds are you don't make it to a camp because they shoot you once you surrender. If you do surrender and make it to a camp, they starve you and they work you to death, and you do not last very long. Similarly, the Soviet attitude to prisoners of war, German prisoners of war in Soviet camps, they weren't quite as bad, I don't think, as the Germans in the Soviets in German camps, but they were really nasty, very unpleasant. The Japanese have a reputation for having been truly awful to their prisoners of war. There's lots of stories of building railway tracks until you died in the Burmese region for British and French and Indian prisoners of war in Japanese camps. The British and French camps for Germans, I believe, were fairly nice. They were also, they had special camps for the higher-ups in the German command. So they'd put German prisoners like high up prisoners, as in, you know, generals and that kind of thing, in I think it was a stately home they put them in, and then they tapped every room of the stately home. And so by treating them nicely, they all talked to each other, and the Allied people listened in to all their conversations and got some seriously useful intel. So I would love a prisoners of war system where you can set your policy, as in take prisoners of war, shoot on sight, treat prisoners of war well, that kind of thing. So shoot on sight would do something like raise the amount of world tension your actions cause. It would decrease other people's relations with you, maybe even people on your side, especially democracies, but it would lower the cost of prisoners of war. And then if you went for like the super generous prisoners of war, it could give you +1 encryption, plus 5% consumer goods factories, because it's expensive to hold lots of prisoners of war. That kind of thing. I'd love it if they introduced that system. Another fun fact, which I learned about recently, did you know that when the Allies sunk submarines, they sometimes took the crews of those submarines, they rescued the crews of those submarines, and then took them prisoner? I'm clicking around here because, you know, Arctic convoys and all that. I never knew that. They actually took the crews of German submarines prisoner as the Allies. Fun fact. So, nukes. What's the console command for nukes? I can't remember. It's something like debug nukes? Debug nuke? It's not important. Okay, so when you nuke a province at the moment, it does some serious damage to the units in that province. Obviously, if you nuke a city and things, it lowers the national unity of the enemy. What it doesn't do is create a weather effect. So here we are north of Poznan again. This province has a storm effect, reduced air detection, reduced naval detection, naval speed, so on and so on and so on, right? I think when you nuke a province, it should make a weather effect called fallout, and maybe you should make it in some of the surrounding provinces as well. I'm not sure how far the fallout went in World War II era nukes. When they nuked Hiroshima, would there be like a fallout? Was there a what's the term for it? A fallout cone or something? Let's say the wind was a southwesterly, so the fallout would go in this direction. Would it affect this area and this area as well? I really don't know, but if it would, then it should spread out like that. But a weather effect for fallout, which massively increases attrition, massively decreases the ability to use airplanes, things like that. Because at the moment, one of the really effective ways to attack a province is you nuke it, and then you immediately attack the province. And I really feel like that shouldn't work very well, because your men are walking into a freaking radiation-filled hellhole, and that should seriously impair their ability to attack the area. Obviously, if you dropped a nuke here, like, not this whole area would become unlivable, so it shouldn't be like 100% attrition, but it should give you some attrition. Those are my 10 changes to Hearts of 4 that I sincerely hope that Paradox puts into the game. I bear no illusions that Paradox will watch this video, but just, you know, putting them out there. Please make these changes, Paradox. You have a wonderful game, and this would make it even better. Thank you for watching. Do put your own comments of changes you would like to see in the video description. I will be making more of these videos as more changes occur to me, and if you say something that you think needs changing and I agree, I will absolutely put it in the next one, and don't worry, I'll give you full credit. I'm not going to steal your ideas. Thank you for watching, everybody, and please, please, Paradox, please. Bye-bye.